This is a good boy. And this is a good boy. All these are good boys. But this is the bestest boy. Why? Because that's my boy. It's been said that one dog year is roughly 7 human years. But I have to disagree on the simple fact that some dogs can live to the ripe old age of 18 and sometimes even older. So going by what we already know, 7 times 18 is 126. Quick maths. The oldest person to ever live was a French woman named Jeanine Clement, who reached the age of 122. But this is still 4 years shy of an 18-year-old dog. Now ask yourself, how many people live to the age of 100? It's rare, right? In England, our Queen sends you a letter congratulating you and wishing you good health for the remainder of your years. Now think how many dogs live to the age of 15. It's still quite uncommon, but it's more common than a person turning 100. So I don't think a dog's life should be seen as 7 years to 1 human year. I feel like it should be closer to 5, which would make a 15-year-old dog 75 in human years, which is far more realistic than being 105. But that's not to say the dog won't live longer than 15, so I personally believe dog years is 5 to 1. But where this leads us is to the argument of time. When you break it down, time is really strange and kind of meaningless. I've seen far too many videos about time, like these.
And so that the universe will end not with a bang, but with a whimper.
And even though they are really well made, they are still completely unfollowable, simply because our human brains aren't able to understand such large numbers and lengths of time. Most of us can't even wait for the microwave to ping without looking at the food cook through the grate. Now think in terms of the lifetime of the sun. Any second now. Any second. You'd be long dead before the sun has even spent 1% of its life just doing what a star does, you know? Just kind of chilling. Yeah, chilling. That's the right word. But this video isn't about the length of time. This is about the perception of time. And what I mean by that is, you know when a day is dragging and you ask your mate how the day's going for them and they say it's flying. What the fuck is that? It's the same time. So surely you should feel the same, but it doesn't. And I'm going to explore why. So the first thing that comes to mind is the old saying, time flies when you're having fun. Which is true. An hour at a theme park feels a lot shorter than doing an hour exam. Now I've not done any research. This is just the thoughts of a madman here, so don't think anything I say in this is based in fact. But I reckon the reason for that is you're much more aware during an exam than you are during a theme park. Because think, you don't want to miss a thing during an exam, so your concentration is at its highest. But at a theme park, think of all the input your brain is getting at the exact same time. People's faces, the smell of food, the noise, the music, the colours, everything. If your brain was as focused as much as it was in an exam, you'd have a fucking meltdown. So what I think is your brain blocks out a lot of the input, like remembering faces, and among other things, your perception of time. I've just had a thought. Maybe the people who suffer with chronic anxiety have a hard time of turning that focus off. So they're taking all this information in, possibly leading to symptoms of anxiety. Then again, I could be chatting shit. So, why do people experience time differently? Like I mentioned at the start, why is it one person's day can drag and the other person's fly? Maybe their minds are working differently. Maybe one person is more focused while the other is just in a world of their own. I'm starting to think why we experience time differently is due to individual neurological behaviour. See, something else, like when you're constantly checking the time, you're making yourself aware of it, thus days feel longer for you. Honestly, I believe time doesn't really exist. It's just a measurement of the rate of which things decay, because it can go from a Planck second all the way up to a Googleplex. By no means is a Googleplex the longest time, it's just the largest unit I can think of. Both are incredibly extreme ends of the spectrum. If you don't know what either are, it's fine, I won't bother learning about them, they're just literally mind boggling. But if you want to learn, this video is a great way to visualise them. After about 5 minutes my brain melted out my ears, I simply don't have the mental aptitude to understand such extremes. But the link is in the description, go show them some love. Something else that completely spins me out is time dilation around black holes, or that thing Xavier talks about with pickles. Both are just, oh I don't know the word, completely up the fuck. Like how does that even happen? Extreme gravity distortion messes around with time? What kind of Boris Johnson Peppa Pig bullshit is that? Science could probably explain it, but you know what, I'm done caring at this point. I don't understand it, I don't want to, it's fucking scary. Here's another fun fact about time. When you look at the stars, you're actually looking back at what the stars looked like from its distance away. Okay, so let me explain. See, stars are really far away. Like, really, really far. And even though light is the fastest thing in the universe, when travelling distance between stars, it's like a person walking in front of you, irritatingly slow. For example, our closest star, disregarding the sun of course, is Proxima Centauri, which is an awesome name by the way. It's roughly 4 light years away, which means it takes roughly 4 years for its light to reach us. So if you looked at that star, you're not seeing it as it is, you're seeing how it looked 4 years ago. So if that star exploded, we wouldn't know until 4 years after it happened. Even as something as close as our own sun, I'm using that in terms of general distance, the sun is still really fucking far away, it still takes the sun's light 8 minutes to reach us. See, light is one slow ass bitch in the grand scheme of things. That was slightly off topic, wasn't it? That became more about distance than time, huh? But if we're using space as an example, it only seems fair that we take into account the subject of distance. So there's this series on YouTube called The Big Les Show, made by Jared Wright, and it's amazing, but there's a segment in there where 2 characters are talking about the perception of time while looking at a tree, and I found it really captivating. Now I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something like, when we're looking at the tree, we see it as solid, not going anywhere. But in the tree's perspective, it looks down and sees its roots wiggling like tentacles. Our perceptions of time are different. To us, the tree is moving really slow, but to the tree, we're moving really fast. And I found that so interesting, mainly because if our perception of time can differ between a tree and a human, can it be perceived differently by other things? So when I think of this, I think of something I dubbed the uncatchable fly, patent pending. Okay, so imagine you're sitting down and there's a fly hovering around and it's mildly irritating, so you try to swat it and naturally, you miss, but then it lands on your leg, so you focus, you steady your hands, you prime, and you slap your leg faster than you ever moved your hand before, and yet the fly still escapes. You do this over and over, and you come to the conclusion that this fly is unswattable because it's some kind of super fly, but unbeknownst to you, this fly actually sees everything in super slow motion. How easy would it be to get out of the way of a speeding car if it was only going 5 miles per hour? How amazing could you be of a fighter if you saw your opponent's shoulder tense before he throws a right cross, so you could take appropriate actions to avoid being hit as soon as you spot his slightest movement? Everyone else would just think you have the reflexes of a god, but everything is in slow motion to you, and this is why I think flies always manage to escape. But the question I'm left with is, if the fly sees everything in slow motion, how far up the ladder and how much does this perception change among animals and eventually by humans? Do humans have slight discrepancies in our biological makeup that allow us to perceive time slower or faster? This is simply a question that cannot be answered. Since we can't subjectively see the world through another's eyes, we are limited to our own understanding and our own perception of life. So this has been one hell of an episode, and sorry it took so long to make. Yes, I'm running out of ideas, please help. But the message behind this video is time is so precious. You don't have an infinite amount of time on Earth. You never know what's around the corner. So spend as much time as possible surrounded by the people you love. Spend as much time as possible doing the things you want to. Time isn't like money. We can't just get more of it. So budget your time carefully, spend it wisely, and most importantly, stay intensely curious.